There's a lot of great music education happening across the state of Wyoming. Today's guest is Michael Jaycox. He teaches elementary music in Powell, Wyoming. Michael graduated from Laramie High School, then went to the University of Wyoming and has taught band, choir, and elementary music throughout the state. In this conversation, we talk about rural music education, classroom strategies, and his work with the Wyoming Music Educators Association, including a new mentorship program for music teachers. This is my conversation with Michael Jaycox. Welcome to Backroad Bandstand. All right, well, Michael, welcome.
Yes.
It was a little easier to get here than the last time we talked.
A little bit, yeah, the directions were a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Other than the whole change out there, I forgot about that.
Oh,
you
yeah,
can't turn left
can't turn left. Did you end up going to the stoplight and going around?
I did,
Yeah.
yeah, it was great.
You know, well, welcome. This is my band room.
Yes.
So you are what some people might consider a true product of Wyoming.
I think so.
Can you tell us just about that and what has inspired you musically throughout those formative years?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Laramie, and I think growing up in Laramie was a really cool opportunity for arts, especially just because with the university there were opportunities that were brought into my elementary school, my middle school, high school, that we probably don't get quite as often as we in smaller rural areas. So that was really important to me.
So Laramie, like where the University of Wyoming is?
Yes.
For those that outside the state.
And with the university there, they did have a lot of outreach programs. Like I remember there was an opera program, Opera in a Gym, that would come out all the time. And that was such a cool way for elementary students primarily to get introduced to opera or to musical theater. And then I just was able to do a lot of really cool music things that I don't know if I would have gotten that opportunity in Greybull. So like when I was in high school, I went with the Wyoming Ambassadors and got to travel all over Europe for 2 weeks. And that was where I first met Dr. Bob Belzer, who was the director of bands at University of Wyoming. And he is incredible. And he was so kind and just so wonderful. And I was so shy. And I knew that he was on my Laramie bus. And so we kind of connected that way. And his wife also played clarinet. I play clarinet, and I just love Myra. So they kind of brought me in with them on that tour. So then later, when I wanted more opportunities to play, I played in the community band at the university and just was able to play with different people, build my musical skills that way. And then when I was deciding on where to go for my university degrees, I originally did not want to go to UW. I wanted to get out of Wyoming and go somewhere different. And then
what was your top choice outside of Wyoming?
University of Puget Sound.
Oh, okay.
Washington was. I wanted to go to the Northwest. I thought that was such a beautiful area. When I got to go there for my senior year for All Northwest, we were in Portland.
Cool.
And I just loved it. And I thought that was such a cool area.
Yeah.
But then we look at cost, and that was a huge deciding factor of pay almost $45,000 a year versus using the Hathaway and music scholarships and all that and getting a free degree pretty much. So I did that, but I loved it. I think there were so many things that I was able to do at UW that I would not have been able to do at other places. Like being a drum major with the marching band for 4 years, being able to be principal clarinet with the UW Symphony Orchestra, getting a chance to work very closely with all of those really high-name professors, Dr. LaMartine, who's director of choral studies, Dr. Griffith, Dr. Belzer, Dr. McCaig, just some amazing educators that were at the university, and to feel like they really cared about you and what you were going to do later on in life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would have gotten that intimate of a education somewhere else, like at a bigger place.
Okay, so, interesting.
But the other thing that I really loved about doing University of Wyoming was then the connections that I was able to make pretty early on, like as a freshman, sophomore, meeting different teachers from around the state, going to our state conference, and starting to figure out what I would want to teach, where I would want to teach, what kind of a teacher I want to be. And that was where I first met like Chad and Brent Rose, who then later on became my mentors when I student taught, and have just been very close friends and colleagues ever since. And meeting them opened so many other doors because they know everybody else in the state too. So then I got to really meet everybody and know everybody, and it was just great, which I think helped prepare me for the success that I had when I first got my first job in Greybull, which was a 612 band, 912 choir position. And I don't think if I'd had the education at the University of Wyoming or the knowledge of Wyoming music education, I would not have been as successful in that job. Because essentially you're doing 3 different jobs: middle school band, high school choir.
Yeah, and we'll get to that in a sec. So do you remember, was it elementary school, middle school, high school where you felt like that passion push?
I feel like...
Was there a moment that really was like, I really want to pursue this at a further level? Or was it the ambassadors thing with Dr. Belzer?
I think there are a couple things with that. I knew pretty early on in my life that I wanted to be a teacher. I always loved playing school with my sisters. I loved being able to tutor my friends in school, and I always loved the feeling that when I was working on a math problem with a kid, and then they got it, and they got it because I helped them, that feeling was so addictive.
Yeah.
I just loved it, and I loved helping people. So that was where I knew I was going to be a teacher. In high school was when I was trying to decide between my 2 passions, which would be music or German. And I had done trips for both, and I'd really experienced both, but I just think that the music was what pushed me even further. And honestly, probably looking back and thinking about the ambassadors trip and the connections that I was able to make there, I think that really helped a lot. And just, it's music.
Yeah.
I just loved it. So
cool, very cool. Now the ambassadors, just to touch on that before we continue on into post-grad work and getting your first job in Greybull. That is a program that's pretty cool because you don't have to be from Laramie in the town that has the University of Wyoming. You could be from wherever. Yeah.
Anywhere.
In Wyoming.
In Wyoming.
Right, yeah.
For the Wyoming ambassadors one.
Sure.
And there's other ambassadors for different states, but that one, I think it was, I met people from Burns, Natitsi, all these itty bitty little towns. And then you meet the teachers from all those places too, which was really cool. But
yeah, I've always found it interesting because I think one of the best guitar players I've ever met was from Matiti.
Yeah. And you would never know. Because
he just loved playing guitar, dude. Still does. He's really good at it.
Yeah. And Wyoming is such a big, spread out state that it is hard to, make those connections until you're in those situations like the ambassadors where everyone comes together for that. So,
which is interesting because then a lot of kids go to community college together, and if they don't do that, they go to the University of Wyoming together. Yes. If they don't really branch out,
right,
and pick one of the larger regional schools or even further afar.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you get into the University of Wyoming. Did you immediately go the music education route?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that? What was required? Because had you been exposed to marching band? Did you sing in a choir?
Sure.
Did you participate in the theater?
So
talk to us. Just about your whole UW journey, man.
Absolutely.
I want to hear the whole thing.
It's so funny because I am a very different person than when I was in elementary school and high school. I was very quiet, very shy. There are times that I still act a little bit more that way, but I can push myself to be more of an extrovert. But I auditioned for, I just very much remember auditioning for drum major in high school, and I was so quiet on the podium, nobody could hear me talk, and I didn't get it, and I was devastated. And I knew that if I wanted to do that in college, I needed to really push myself and change, and so I did.
Wow, that's a cool story that you took that leverage and had it motivate you through.
It was the biggest, and I think honestly that has been the biggest transformation that I've had in my educational career, of going from this really quiet person to leading, 180-piece band every day and talking in front of them, and talking as a sophomore, because I made it at the end of my freshman year. I'm a sophomore talking to fifth-year seniors and leading fifth-year seniors and having to do that and be confident in that leadership. And it was great. But while I was in high school, I was in band all the way through. I took AP Music Theory my senior year because I knew that was something that I wanted to do. I knew I probably needed to work on my singing. I didn't do choir because I was really shy. I did it in elementary school, and then I think by the time you get to middle school, what's so difficult is there's some limited options of how many of those elective classes you can take. And I knew band and German were the ones that I wanted to do all the time. So
your middle school offered German?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, we had French, Spanish, and German that you could choose from, so that was really cool. I don't think that's as prevalent anymore, but it used to be.
We still offer Spanish.
Yes.
Which is very cool.
Yeah. And so my senior year, I did the AP Music Theory, I was doing band, and then I was in a before school boys group that I don't even remember what we were called, the guys, I think.
Yeah, classic.
Super original. And there were 8 of us, and we did barbershop quartets.
Oh, nice.
Which was awesome and super fun. And then
that's one way to learn theory, I suppose.
It was, especially since it was Sandy Steele that was doing that, and then also doing music theory, which she was an amazing teacher. And that AP Music Theory class, to this day, I still say is one of the hardest classes I've ever taken. The amount of work that went into it, and music theory is hard. And
especially for a high school kid.
Especially for a high school kid. And then, and it was kind of funny at the very end of that, we take the test and I got a 4 on the oral part of it, and then a 5 on the written part, and then a 5 overall, which is the top of the thing. And I never thought that I would. I never thought I was one of those smart music kids. And I distinctly remember emailing Mrs. Steele about it, and because she'd emailed all of us, and I was like, what did you get? Because she doesn't ever get the scores until later. So I told her, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And congratulations. And I was like, yeah, I did never think I was a smart music kid. And she's like, Michael, you are a smart music kid. Obviously, like you did it. But
that's a great moment to have from it.
It was a great moment.
Mentor like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Very cool.
So all of those things really helped push me. And then one of my best friends, Sarah Ferguson, now Sarah McCoy, was also debating doing music education. So we kind of did the program a little bit together. We did all the same stuff. She was a violinist, but we did music theory together. We would do choir things together as much as possible. We would go and jam and gig at old folks' homes for Christmas programs and for Christmas songs and playing for them and that kind of thing. And
very cool.
So that all helped really shape going into music ed. And I remember going into the program and being scared because Dr. McCaig was kind of a scary person. But the more that I've learned about her, she is a scary person because she very much values music education. And she's going to fight for people that are going to care for it as much as she does. And that was really helpful to have as a teacher and as a program leader. So yeah, I think I kind of got that in a roundabout way.
Absolutely. So you did end up auditioning and securing the head drum major spot at the University of Wyoming. Can you talk about that just if you want? Yeah,
absolutely. So when I was first auditioning, there were 6 of us that were doing it. And I remember it was like a 2-week process or like a week-long process, maybe. Seemed very long. There were a lot of different components.
It was probably longer than that.
It probably was. There was the application. There was probably multiple interviews. I think we even had a round where we cut some people, unless that was later, because we did have to do that later. We had to do conducting, marching. We had to demonstrate our own marching plus teach marching. And there was a huge panel with it. And I was one of 2 or 3 freshmen that were auditioning, but then the rest were like seniors. And I just never thought that I would beat out a senior. And then when we did the first round of cuts and I went through and I was like, holy crap.
So this was your freshman year?
This was my freshman year.
Oh man.
Very end of my freshman year.
Shoot for the stars, right?
Shooting for it.
You didn't handle that high school rejection very well.
No, I did not.
Or you handled it really well.
I knew that it just was something that I was very passionate about and that I loved, and I didn't want to fail because I didn't give my all again. Because I didn't give my all when I was in high school because I didn't know what that was. And
because you hadn't experienced
Because I hadn't experienced it.
That level of detail, dedication.
And to be perfectly honest, I'm pretty good at a lot of things. A lot of things come very naturally to me. So when I'm not used to failure because I don't usually fail. And when that happened, I was like, well, we're not doing that again, and we're going to do something different. And I did.
That's good fuel, man.
It was very powerful.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I remember had to wait a weekend. Like the last thing was on a Friday and we had to wait until Monday after classes, so it was like 3:00. And I'm like, oh my God, can we just know what
it's like a psychological trap or something.
Terrible. I hated it. And then we got it, and then it was amazing. And I remember the next year I worked with Tanya Fletcher was the head drum major, and Stephanie, I don't even remember, Squires, then Williamson.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was scary, it was terrifying, but I grew. And the other things that were terrifying about it were not the marching band part of it, but like the football pep band part of it. Like leading a pep band for a UW game is very different than a high school game, because you have ad breaks, you have everything is scripted.
Sure.
To the minute for those, and that was really nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking for me because I don't like football as much, and I don't always know what to like how to watch it, I guess.
You had to learn football really quick then.
Very quickly. And I remember there was a guy that played snare drum, Craig, I can't remember his last name, but the
red-haired guy?
Yes,
Yeah,
the PE teacher that would come back and still play. He loved it. So I always would just look at him, especially if it was down the field and I couldn't tell if they got the down or not, I'd just double check with him and he'd be like, yeah.
He'd be like, go.
Right time, here we go.
Yeah.
And we do that, and that was great.
That's great that you built that connection though, from the drum line, because he would probably been playing like lead snare or something, right?
Yeah. And that was, looking back on it, that was one of the first times that I realized as a leader, you don't really have to know everything.
Sure.
But you have to be willing to bring in other people's ideas. And
that's a very good point.
And you synthesize all of that, and then you lead.
Yeah.
And I think just showing off that I was willing to do a lot of that and not act like a cocky, arrogant person was I like being that leader. I like being the leader that welcomes everybody in, and then seeing what we can do. And I think it worked, because the marching band would always give out the Brandon Hudson Memorial Award, or like volunteer band member award, something where it was essentially like the person that the band thinks embodies Western Thunder the most.
Like the spirit of the band.
The spirit.
Yeah.
I won it twice.
I was able to get it nice.
A couple of times, and that was always really humbling, because it always made me realize that I was doing it right.
Yeah.
And I was very thankful that I was coming off the way that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So, marching band was a huge shaper in my life.
Yeah.
So
huge shaper. Huge time commitment.
Huge time commitment. And especially as a drum major, like we were there weeks before camp.
Were you guys like going to sectionals and stuff during the season too, or we would just facilitating that at all?
We would pop in, especially if there were issues with any leadership things within a section, or
like personality, problems.
And that was new too, of learning how to deal with angry people that would disagree with a song that we did, or
literally everything.
Literally anything. And it is a skill to learn to listen and then not let your gut react. And then talk. So but a lot of times I would sit back and watch the older drum majors, and then when it was my turn as head drum major, I already had that experience then of having some of these discussions, being involved in all of the selection of all the leadership was a really big thing. That was a really difficult thing at times, because it was my friends.
Yeah.
Then you're having to select between them. But a lot of the directors that I worked with, both Chris Nicholas and Brad Williamson, both were really good about being professional about that, and making sure there was a committee always would help that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, very interesting. So you very cool experiences. It's hard to remember how impactful that Western Thunder experiences were at the time, because at the time you're just doing it and you're like, this is crazy, because it's fast and furious. Transferring from Northwest to the University of Wyoming, where there is that's a D1 marching program. And so you go into that, and the demand level, just the baseline. I remember first couple days, because I went in thinking man, I'm just gonna play cymbals. It's not gonna be that hard. I want to be good at it, but I think this is probably something I don't really need to commit a lot of brain power to. And then I get there, and dude, that first week I remember like halfway through being like, oh, okay.
Oh, this is real. This is serious.
Like,
oh,
and we're going to Texas week 1. Like, we're just going to the University of Texas. Like,
yes.
our pre-game is at home, and that's the next performance.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
And I think when I first got there, that was kind of a little bit of the mentality. And then especially when Dr. Williamson came in, that mentality changed, and we were serious. And it was like legit. The things that, like, I got to go to 2 bowl games. My freshman year, I want to say I went to the NCAA tournament in Albuquerque for the women's basketball team because they had just won the NIT, WNIT, so they were able to go there. That was amazing.
Yeah, very cool.
Getting to go to the Mountain West Conference in Vegas with the pet band.
You went with the pet band?
Yeah.
Cool.
Like,
I never got that experience, but
and
that
directed
sounds
it
really
like,
cool.
for one of the times as a drum major, and that was... If I thought a UW game was stressful of like timeouts and everything, like that was
nationally
nothing
televised.
For me. Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh my God.
Or at least regionally televised. And at the time it probably was national because the conferences hadn't really.
And I knew that those experiences were going to be pivotal. I had no idea where they would lead me.
Wow. So where did they lead you? Where are you at right now?
They have led me to just feel confident in myself as a leader in a lot of different ways, which was what helped me when several years ago, a bunch of people were asking me if I was going to run for the Wyoming Music Educators Association president.
I was one of those people.
You were one of those people. And at the time, I had been on the board as the elementary vice president, the innovations vice president, and I'd done the innovations one for 1 term, so that was 2 years. And I did the elementary one I ended up having to take over in the middle of it, so I did that for 3 years. So I'd been on the board for 5 years, and I knew what was going on, I knew how it worked. I just never thought that I'd be good enough to be the president or good enough to know, because I knew it was a big deal that I was not just not doing a job, I was representing the state of Wyoming and their educational needs, their music educational needs, speaking out. And I didn't even realize that I would be going to national things and speaking on behalf of these teachers. So when I really realized that was it, I was like, holy, I don't know if I'm that person. I don't know if I'm qualified enough yet to do it. And the thing that I've learned is no one is ever qualified to do it until you start really doing it, because you don't really know what it is until you're in it. And if you wait until you're ready to be there, you're never going to be ready. No one's ever ready to take a big leap like that. So
this seems to be a reoccurring theme. When really I talked to Zach, he kind of alluded to you don't know what you don't like until you do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I even felt that when I first started teaching. Like, I thought I wanted to be a high school band teacher forever. Like all the marching band stuff, all the conducting that I took. I never thought of elementary.
Yeah.
And then that became the thing that I loved most.
Sure.
So
let's get to the WMEA stuff in a minute.
Absolutely.
You graduate the University of Wyoming. Where did you student teach?
So I student taught in Buffalo, and I did 8 weeks with Belinda Chesbrough at the elementary, and then 8 weeks with both Chad and Brent. They were team teaching at the high school.
Oh.
So I did.
Man, what a time to go to Buffalo.
Oh man, it was a great time.
Very cool.
It was great to work with 3 amazing educators, but especially with Chad and Brent. They are so passionate. They're also a little different in how they approach things. And that was a huge learning experience. Like, I remember one time with Chad, he learned he had to leave the room and not watch me teach because he couldn't stop talking while I would teach, and he'd start interjecting as I'm teaching, and he's like, that's so not fair to you, man. I'm so sorry. I just got to get out of here while you and if you have questions, we'll talk later. I'm like, okay, you can do that.
That's a passionate guy there.
So passionate. The passion for pet band that those guys had was amazing. And it was so cool to be with people that I knew were full on into education. Like, I remember Brent giving me books from Peter Boonshaft, Tim Lautzenheiser, about the artistry of teaching. And he was like, if you really want to do this, you should probably know what these guys are talking about with education. And it was great to see that. And because I guess I thought, like, when you're in college, you're going to be reading these professional texts. When you move on in the world, you're probably not going to be reading these books anymore. And I'm like, no, you probably do need to keep reading all those books as you keep going, because education changes, kids change, and you change. And you want to find ways that work better for you as an educator than, like, I teach probably differently than you teach, and we find different ways to be successful. Neither is wrong. It's just different.
And it's what inspires the kids that you have, too. I think the different areas I've taught, I've noticed different things inspired different kids, right? Like, and so if you can dig into that, that's huge. And sounds like you had very good role models to model that and to kind of talk you through some of those more difficult times in teaching and stuff.
And I remember being with them that I did my high school placement first in elementary, and I remember doing the high school one, and I remember enjoying it. Not really feeling great about it, not really feeling bad about it, but just kind of enjoying it. And when I moved to elementary, that was when I loved it.
Wow.
And that was what opened my eyes of like, oh, this is fun. This is very different. This is, I can do kind of whatever. I can really, really tailor my lessons to what kids need. Whereas I didn't feel I was good at that at the secondary level. And even when I was first teaching, my first job was Greybull, teaching 6/12 band, 9/12 choir, and I felt the same way there, that I was rehearsing, but I wasn't teaching.
Sure.
And then when I went to elementary, I really felt I was doing a lot of teaching. And now in my point of my career, I really look back and think, I could be teaching. Like, there are things that you definitely teach and you do in high school, and then I just had to grow, and I just had to learn that as a teacher.
So you get the Greybull job. You get the Greybull job right out of the gate, and that's 6/12 band, choir, anything music, middle school to high school.
Yep, and one other music teacher in the district. And
how old are you at this point?
I'm 22 or 23.
Okay.
And when I took over in Greybull, I was like the 10th band director in like 15, 16 years. They had a very high turnover rate. They couldn't hardly keep anybody. And I found out there was a guy that had been there before me. He'd been there for 4 years. He was amazing. He left to go play in the Army band, I think. And a new guy came in and destroyed the program in a year. And then I got to come in after him.
Oh, yeah.
So, but from talking to the Roses, talking to other people, that was the best situation for me, because anything I did was going to be better than what the guy did before me, as long as I was doing my job and trying. And I did. And I rebuilt the program within 3 years to I was very proud of the quality of program that it was by the time that I moved to the elementary, and it was great. It was like a clean slate, and the kids craved it. They wanted to do better. They wanted to sing. They wanted to play. There were some kids that fought me a little bit because I was making them play more. But then I remembered something that Dr. Belzer said in one of my methods classes of it's quality over quantity at times. Like, he had talked a lot about how he'd rather have a poor clarinet player, but a great attitude, and somebody that has a great spirit for the band and a great passion for it, than a kid who's an amazing clarinet player that hates everything that's around him. And I got to experience that a lot with some kids in Greybull. That my first year, I had a lot of negative, especially with, and looking back, I think it was just frustration because I was expecting them to do things that they couldn't do. And I could not fathom that these kids were playing for 3 or 4 years and they couldn't do it because you were in band for that long.
Yeah.
But when you don't have a good teacher ahead of it.
Well, and that and the difference between coming from Laramie,
yes,
right, and going to a town like Greybull.
And learning, my first few years especially, was the huge learning of teach the kids in front of you, you're teaching the kids, not the score.
Yeah.
I'm not teaching this music, I'm teaching these kids. And
that's a very good lesson to learn.
It was a huge lesson, and I remember it especially, I don't know if it was my first year or my second year, especially in my middle school bands, I started just getting off the podium, and instead of waving my arms in front of them, I'd grab a trumpet and go sit with the trumpet and be like, dude, this isn't even the song that we're playing, what are you doing? And that was when I really started learning, like, oh, they don't know some of these things, these really basic things of how to be in a rehearsal, how to sit in a band class, and So I stopped teaching at the front and I started teaching from all around, and it was huge.
Yeah, those proximity strategies are pretty effective at times.
They are, and just even sitting with them, and because I think they get I think a lot of kids and anybody they don't want to act like they don't know what's going on.
Right.
They don't want to ask a question.
Well, it's a very difficult social time for them to recognize that too.
I don't know how to play this rhythm. If I ask everybody how they play, and if they get this section and they all say yes, and the one kid that doesn't get it, they're not going to say yes because they don't want to be singled out as that kid. But if I would walk around and be like, hey, do you know what this B flat is? Do you know how to do that? Oh, let me show you.
Yep.
Done. And it really changed how I teach. And then I did that in high school. Same thing. And then I think they bought in a little bit more and trusted that I was there for them and that I was there to make them better and make their band experience better. And then we got this reciprocation going on, and it was really great.
Teaching the musician through character.
Yes.
Yeah. Because what I've found is that the relationship building is much more important than the notes that are played at times, and most of the time it leads to better playing anyway.
It does.
Yeah.
I really think if they can't trust me to help them, they're not going to trust me, and then we can't do these difficult things. But if you trust me, if you believe, and if I can show you over and over again that, hey, this is where we're starting, and yeah, we kind of suck right now, but we're going to work on it and we're going to get better. And then we did get better, and then like, okay, now we're going to go up here. You remember how much we can do it?
Yeah.
It's going to be hard and it's going to take effort, but we know how that effort works. We know if we put in the effort, it's going to get us here. And I think that trust has to be there, though.
Yep.
Especially, music can be so personal.
Definitely. Well, I've always found that like the one person plays the playing test for the whole class, and band, still scary. Don't do that in choir. Because that is like your most intimate personal instrument.
Yes.
Right?
I always tell kids, I'm like, if I'm playing clarinet, I've got a clarinet to hide behind.
Right.
I've got a reed to hide behind.
A stand,
if I squeak, my gosh, it's a clarinet. If I squeak, it's my voice that did it, and then
And depending on the kid, like I've had years where I could do the one-on-one, like, hey, point and play, hit it. Point and play, hit it,
Yes.
And I've had years where it's like, okay, all of you, clarinets right now, ready?
And you get
and then
better.
you just have to listen for it.
And I think that that's just a skill that gets built as an educator, that empathy, that read the room, you can read people really well as an educator, I think.
Yeah.
And especially if you're reading teenagers, sometimes they are very, very difficult to read.
And if you're like cooperative teaching with your colleagues, even the core teachers, like especially like core teachers and you know, PE coaches, and it's important that you are in that ecosystem too.
I agree. Like the same thing of me going and talking, working with Craig in the marching band and building this community. I do think education and schools are a community, and that all of us are these kids' teachers, and we all need to understand and value each other. And I've been very fortunate to work in school districts where I have felt that way, that I'm not just the band teacher or just the music teacher. I am a teacher as part of these kids' lives. And I do that all the time. If I'm having trouble with any student, I will go talk to their teacher, or I will talk to a teacher that I know that they are very connected with, and say, what? Do you know what's going on? Is this happening in your class as well as kind of happening? I'll notice a change in Jimmy, and like something might be happening. And I think those conversations are so important we're here for the success of our program, but we are ultimately also here for the success of the kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Above anything else. And I think it's taken me, over the course of my career to step out of my classroom to go have those conversations instead of just being like, wow, that kid just must hate music, or they must just hate my class, or they must just not like me. Nope, it's not about me. Let's figure it out.
And sometimes that transition from the collegiate level into the professional working world can kind of be like that, because when you're in college, you're like, man, I want to make this group. Like, I want to audition well, and I want to be in this group, and it is kind of a me game.
It is.
When you're in the university program. Granted, there are those team building experiences. Like, I remember going on tour with the jazz bands and the concert bands at Northwest College, and then doing that, traveling with the marching band. I went to New Mexico and Texas, and with the college band. But then you go into the that world, and it's like, no, now you have to give those experiences to the kids.
It is one of the things that I think is hardest about going from college to teaching, and not that this is a failure of the university at all, but it's the actual education experience, the actual working with people. I think a lot of times in our program, at least at UW when I was there, a lot of it is so focused on the music making and not the education part of it, just because there were so many music credits that you had to take to fulfill the music ed degree.
Well, and that's the debate too, is like, should you do it in 4 years? Can you do it in 4 years? Yes.
I did it in 5.
You did it in 5. It took a few years longer than that. But like, the thing is I don't think you can, because Zach and I talked about, like, you have to be a good musician to be a decent educator, because if you don't understand what is happening,
if I don't know what level we can get to, how am I going to help you get up there?
Exactly. And once you get there as like a musician, then you're like, oh, well, that's how I did it. So let's try it this way, and if it doesn't work, differentiate, And
I think it also matters, like, that you know what that level is, but that you can break it down to get to this level. You need to know both ways.
You got to know the steps. Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, the transfer of like I to we can be a little difficult going into that pro world.
And I think what's hard too, one of the harder parts too, going from college to teaching, is that you're, like we talked, like, you're around all these amazing musicians that can sight read anything. And now you're with kids that they don't know what a quarter note is sometimes. Right. Or you have that kid plus the kid that was a 4-year all-stater in the same band. How do you make band good for everybody, and how do you teach every single kid? And I think that can be overwhelming.
Definitely.
And that's where you just learn the differentiation part of it. You learn how to do sectionals. You learn how to do one-on-one time, me getting off the podium and going and sitting next to that kid that doesn't know that. But let's go ahead and keep playing as a band so everybody still gets that experience and we're still working. But now I'm actually giving one-on-one individual instruction at the same time.
Well, and figuring out the strategies to be able to do that.
Yes.
Right? Because like, it took me a while to realize that the sound system is my friend and I need to put a metronome on.
Yes.
Because then I can have like the classroom iPad, which is just sitting there. Like,
absolutely.
I have the classroom iPad and I'm just going around and I can start the metronome and like kind of sight check kids. But it took me, 5 years to learn how to do that.
And I think it just does take time to know what tools you have, how you can use those tools within and anymore in education, I think it's harder because the tools change so quickly. Yeah. There's new apps and there's new things that come out that are amazing that I don't know about, because I don't know where do you find out about them sometimes.
Right.
And,
a lot of experimenting and and talking to folks too, man. Like, some of the greatest conversations I've ever had were just like in the like what do we call that at All Say, the hospitality room.
Yes.
Like, some of those hospitality room conversations have been like pretty game changing for me.
Yes.
Like, and I'm like, oh, I did not think of that. And it came from someone like down in Cheyenne or like over in Rock Springs, Evanston. It's like, oh, okay.
Those roundtable discussions and those, like we do that in Powell at the elementary level. We have weekly meetings and we just share ideas and lesson ideas, and this worked for me. What about you? Or I taught this lesson and it didn't really go well. Can you talk through it with me? Like, maybe where I went wrong, maybe something that I could change. That's groundbreaking. And I think that is a huge challenge I don't know if we're moving into a different area, but moving into like if you teach in a rural area. Yeah,
so where do you teach now?
Yeah, so I teach in Powell, but so at Parkside Elementary, but I also teach at Clark Elementary in Clark, and that's a K-5 school. So I see them all together, and I've had 7 to 25 kids out there, depending on
So you teach in Powell at Parkside?
Yes.
And then how far away is Clark?
Clark is I think it's 35 miles from Powell, so I drive an hour round trip for a half-hour lesson out there with the kids twice a week. And
how many kids do you say?
So right now I've got
typically are out there?
11. My lowest that I had was 7, and then the biggest I had was 25.
Wow.
So
pretty good fluctuation then too.
Pretty good fluctuation. The 25 one was weird because it had been like, and it's just an interesting area out there because it'll depend on families. You'll have a family move in and they've got 4 kids, and so then your enrollment bumps up crazy, and then they move away after Christmas, and then your enrollment drops again like crazy. So it's kind of interesting, and I've never experienced that. And teaching siblings in the same class also.
Yeah.
I had in high school, but it's a little different in high school because one's got a flute, one's got a saxophone. They're not talking and fighting. We're playing tag, and
but one's like a 3rd grader and one's a 5th grader, and things are about to get sibling.
It gets a little crazy sometimes, but the Clark one is interesting, and that was a hard one of figuring out how do I engage all. Because when I've got a kindergartner all the way up through a 5th grader,
right,
and everything in between, how do I build a lesson that's going to be not over this kid's head, and that they're still going to want to be participating, but not, oh my gosh, I can't believe we have to play this old Craig Cat game again, like crazy. But the longer I've gone,
can you talk about like a tip to get through a scenario like that? So for example, when I did Valley, for 1 year, which was a really amazing learning experience and rewarding. The teacher out there is great. And I had 7 kids, 5th grade to kindergarten or 1st grade. I can't remember where it started, but 7 kids spaced out like that, and there was siblings in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So talk about like what it's like to prepare for a lesson like that.
So when I first started in Powell, I think I had finished 2 of my Orff levels. And then I think I finished my 3rd one when I first started there. And I loved Orff. And the things that I really like with Orff is this approach where you really teach and tailor the lesson to the kids, and you kind of let the kids lead that. And you can differentiate like crazy. You can do an Orff arrangement where I have a really difficult xylophone part that I give to the kid that can play the xylophone part, and a triangle for a steady beat. On every time I snap my fingers, you're going to play the triangle. That's where the kindergartner goes and plays. Everybody's contributing, everybody's working together, and that has helped a lot. Another thing that has helped me a ton is I kind of stick with around 2nd and 3rd grade curriculum of what are the concepts that we're learning for those, and because the other hard part is I can't recycle lessons every year. Right. Because it's the same kids that are coming back.
And the differentiation changes.
Especially your skills will change.
And how long have you been doing this? Because you've probably seen quite a few kids go all the way through that program.
Yep. So this is my 9th year in.
Wow.
In
okay.
Powell.
Cool.
I can't believe
so you've seen,
Yeah, I've seen quite a few, and
so that you are changing it every year because you have those kids every year.
And I have learned that there are times that I'll bring back a lesson and be like, hey, older kids, I don't know if you remember this. And a lot of times they won't have remembered that we've done it, or they do remember that we did it and they don't care. Like, oh, right, because they are going to learn and see something differently than when they were in 1st grade.
Right.
Because
1st grade, you're working on that steady beat, right?
Yeah.
And now we're up here, we're reading melodic lines, doing different rhythmic.
And the culture out there, I don't know if that's one that has just always been out there or one that I've helped facilitate, but the older kids really take the younger kids under their wing.
Wow.
Because they remember what it was like when they were younger, and the older kids always have helped the younger kids. Like, one of the big things we do is a big Christmas program, and we do a play, and the older kids have always been just amazing about helping little guys with their lines, of helping making sure that they know what they're doing, helping them with their songs. Like, it's pretty remarkable, and I love it with that. And they also, like, if I do bring back a lesson that we've done before, they know it, or they'll know what they might remember where they had a hard time.
Which can help facilitate flow in that 30-minute lesson.
I am going to work with this kiddo, but why don't you go take this kid, and why don't you go do this?
Right.
And that's been pretty great.
So you said you kind of start in the 2nd and 3rd grade realm. Is that due to just the age split you have? Does that change? Like, let's say
every
you're
year
overloaded
it changes
with
sometimes.
Right. So you're kind of taking this sort of level and branching off to meet the needs of the individual students that you have.
So like I would look at one of the things we do in 2nd grade, 1st trimester is tempo. So we'll talk a little bit about, but that's something that I do in 1st grade and kindergarten also. So I can put in my grade book, tempo, this is what we're working on, but then I scaffold the lesson to, maybe we'll do a lesson on Chicken Little, and I've got a great book with that.
Presto and Largo.
Talking Presto, Largo, all that stuff. And then there are some years when I've had like primarily little guys, just K2 kids with maybe one 5th grader.
That's a tough one.
That one gets a little more tricky, and then that's because I don't want to make them always my assistant.
Sure.
Because then they deserve an education also. They deserve to be a kid too.
Depends how you frame it, though,
It depends
too.
on how you frame it. It depends on my relationship with that kid. It depends on the relationship with those kids. So it definitely is always something new and something different. And one thing that has helped me a ton is me realizing that my teaching of of those kids especially, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I don't have to have it perfectly thought out. I need to have a basic understanding of what I want out of the lesson, but I also have to realize like I may not get it exactly the way that I'm wanting it, even after all these years of experience, even after knowing the relationships with the other kids and things, it may not work out. And this is just in my teaching in general anymore of, well, that lesson didn't work. Let's analyze it and come back again tomorrow, and it's okay. And the fact that it is okay that I still, in 14 years of teaching, make mistakes and can bomb a lesson. You whatever, get over it, and you move on. And I think that that's a lesson all teachers can really learn. But
absolutely, and having that growth mindset is a lot easier to have when you have built those relationships, coming back to our earlier conversation, and the kids trust you, and sometimes they're like, oh, Mr. Jaycox,
come on, that one. Or
mine's always like, Mr. Brown, really?
Did you do that?
It's like, okay, that one's on me.
And I love being able to be honest with the kids and just show them that I'm a human. And I think that was one thing that I really learned early on is if I make a mistake with a kid, either a management thing or a teaching thing, I apologize. Guys, that was wrong.
Yep.
But let me try again and let me do better.
And it's hard to own it like the first time.
It's hard to own it. Especially because you get this mindset that I'm working with elementary kids. I shouldn't be apologizing to an elementary kid. No, you should be apologizing. If you're in the wrong, show them that you're in the wrong so that when they're in the wrong, they can show that they can be in the wrong as well and that it's okay and that we're all human. We all make mistakes and we all just want to get better.
That's very good advice.
Yeah.
Especially for kids maybe pre-service about to be in pre-service education, with spring when we're recording this. So
absolutely.
There's probably kids out there right now. But going into I would say, how long for you? Because I told Zach, first 5 years for me was like a really huge learning, and I'm still learning now, but year 5 was when I was kind of like, okay, no, I can handle this.
I think it was kind of tricky because I had 3 years doing middle school, high school, and then I transferred to elementary. And then I did 2 in Greybull, 2 years of elementary in Greybull, and then I've been in Powell since.
So you have 2 different hats that are pretty different in scope, right?
Very different, and very different skill sets. And I think I learned something from every year of teaching, and I got better every year of teaching. Did I recognize the things that I learned every year of teaching? Probably not. I want to say I definitely got better in Powell when I was able to settle into a position and really kind of hone my craft and know that, because the hard part with Greybull was I was pretty sure I didn't want to be in Greybull forever. And this is something that they don't always talk about when you go to a small little rural town, is you may be that teacher that is that age. I was the only teacher my age. I was the youngest. I had high school kids in the town, and I had 40 plus teachers, and this was me. And it gets very lonely at times, and especially when you're really isolated. So I think that was where I didn't necessarily want to stay in Greybull. So when I was in Powell and I was finally able to settle in and know that I was going to be there for a while, I think that's when I really got to be more introspective, and I started having more pre-service teachers. So I'd have a few from Northwest College would come and watch. I'd have a practicum student from Billings every now and then, and I'd also had a student teacher by that point. My last year in Greybull, I had a student teacher, and that was eye-opening of the things that I want to impart into them, and I want to share all these things, but you have to figure out what is the most important and what is needed what does that student teacher need most from you, instead of me just drowning you in all this information, which then made me think, what is most important? What am I doing that's most important? And then being able to sit back and watch these other teachers and just sit and observe and not say anything was hard. So this is where I get Chad. I totally get it of why he had a hard time not saying anything, because it's hard to just watch like a pre-service teacher kind of struggle, knowing I could jump in and save them, but I also know if I jump in and save them, they're never going to learn it.
Right.
Thinking back, what would I have done in that situation? How could I have done it? And then talking about it later with them. I think that got a little roundabout there, but yeah. I think, what was the original question? I don't even remember what the original question was.
I don't know either, man. I was just inspired by it, because like having pre-service teachers, I think that's where we were, as we're talking about, that pre-service transition into that. You go into a rural town where you're the youngest teacher.
Yes.
I was fortunate enough that I think my first job, there was a pretty decent spread, but it was fairly like middle ground. And then in Thermopolis, it was kind of the same thing. I was one of the younger ones, but the folks that were, older, I think Mr. K and Mrs. K were just two examples from Thermopolis that they were, kind of at the end of their career, and they were like still chomping at the bit learning stuff and like the professional developments. And I remember seeing that and being like, that's cool, like just keep getting better. Cause like these folks, I think they probably had like, I don't know, 10 years left or something. And I was like, they're like, this is cool to see, and it was inspiring to me.
And I agree about that. I always want to be a teacher that I don't ever feel like I know everything. And I feel if I ever get to a point where I know everything, I need to probably just step out and take a break, because education I don't think it's something that you can know everything. I think you can be really, really good at it, and you can adapt quickly and those kinds of things. But I think we all need to always be constantly learning and growing, because society is constantly learning and growing. Kids are constantly learning and growing. There's new and different challenges every year. And I think if you are not willing to be flexible and adaptable, you're going to get run over.
Yeah. Well, and not just by the profession itself, but by like the progression of things.
I think you're going to hate it. Like, it's really difficult. And this is one thing that I have learned of, with my kids right now. A couple years ago, there's a teacher that, it was Artie Almeida. She had this thing of, it's not hard, it's new. So then that's a saying that I say all the time. And then I was also just noticing that when my kids were getting ready for programs or things, it made me really stop and think for a moment. It's elementary school. It's all the kids that are in this room. Not every kid likes music. And that's okay. It's fine. Because when I was in elementary school, I hated PE. I didn't want to go to PE all the time, run the mile all the time. But so coming to that understanding with the kids, and I tell them, I don't want you to be perfect. That's not my goal for you. My goal is for you to give your best. And if you're best, because also developmentally, some of those kids physically cannot do the things I'm asking them, because they're just not there yet. They don't have the gross motor skills. They don't have fine motor skills. But if you're giving me your all, that's truly all I care about. So that shifted my whole mindset of why am I busting myself and kicking myself because that kid didn't sing that song right? And why am I forcing every single kid to be singing right now? And you do your best. And if you're working hard and you're giving me effort and you're trying and you're doing it, great. Because I can't get you any further unless you start.
Sure.
So if I can get them to start, then maybe we can talk about going even further. But I'm also not going to kill myself to try and, or just beat myself up that I'm not a good teacher because I didn't get every kid to sing. I'm not going to get every kid always to sing. But I can get them to maybe appreciate it and love music. So, but that was a huge mindset shift that then makes it easier for me as a teacher, makes it easier on my brain, and I don't feel like I'm a failure for it. But college me would have completely felt like a failure because I didn't get every kid to do that. So.
And early in your career, you take everything personal and
you want to be good, and you want to, and you compare yourself to other people. Don't compare your program to other people's programs.
Right. You just got to do your thing.
You do your thing. You have your kids. You have your way of teaching.
Yeah.
Comparison is a thief of joy.
Sure. So how many years were you in Greybull? Just reflection.
5.
5 years in Greybull. You are now in your 9th year in Powell.
Yes.
At what point did you start? I think earlier you had said you had started working with the WMEA.
Yes.
At what point in your career did you decide to get into the organizational side of things?
I think I was teaching elementary in Greybull, so that would have been my 3rd year when I ran for Innovations.
And what is Innovations?
Innovations is kind of like the other of, because there's like the band strand, choir strand, orchestra strand, collegiate technology, elementary, and then Innovations is kind of this ambiguous one. And I don't think a lot of people really know what Innovations is supposed to be. I don't think I really knew what Innovations was when I was the VP, but it's finding new ways of instruction. So like modern band would be something that would fit really well in Innovations, or guitar classes.
Guitar, I remember there's been some guitar programs and stuff like that.
Kind of thing, it's kind of where things are that don't always fit into that are harder to fit into those other strands, especially if it's something that is cross-curricular. We put it there so that everybody can kind of go there and
because a lot of us are doing like 6 through 12 programs. There's a lot of K-12 teachers around here. Not everyone is just teaching orchestra at the high school.
Correct. And it's a place, I think, where, like, especially at our conference, that people, like, how do I teach a music appreciation class?
Sure. Yeah.
Here, this is how we can
Was that us that we had talked about having just the kids that were put in there? And Yeah. So, like, how do I teach those kids? And how do I inspire them that this is something they do experience every day? And it matters.
How do I inspire those kids into my program? How do I get them involved? That was a lot of that one. I think we've done some world drumming kinds of things in that group as well. A lot of technology things, and I think that is, and we do have a technology strand as well, but I think the amount of technology that is available
it's incredible.
Incredible.
I teach a digital music class at the middle school here at Cody, and some of the things that kids are able to do are pretty incredible. I was literally teaching, this side note here, I was teaching a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. We were composing it in GarageBand. We did the melody, and then we did the bass line. Then we, copied the bass line and built the chords off of it. And in that amount of time, I had 2 kids over in the corner literally figure out how to download MIDI files off the internet and put a bunch of Beethoven into the MIDI into GarageBand.
We are in a world where these kids know nothing but technology.
Yeah.
And like so it's funny you mentioned GarageBand, because I do when I was doing my master's, that was one of the things that we learned was a technology in music, and we did a composition thing with GarageBand. So I'd wanted to do in my district for our 5th graders, but they didn't have Apple, they had just Chromebooks. So I was like, well, how do we figure this out? We found Chrome Music Lab. And there's
Chrome Music Lab.
Yes.
Is that still a thing?
Yes. Oh, it's huge.
Because a lot of folks don't have the iMac or Apple, and I've been lucky both in Thermopolis and here in Cody. Like, we had Apple, and so we had
which is amazing.
Which is great, but I personally don't own an Apple.
No.
Like, mine's a PC or Chromebook.
Exactly.
And,
And we started this a couple years ago with Chrome Music Lab, and they had like a few games, like, I don't know, 8 games maybe that you could use, and we would always use Songmaker. And we just did it, I did it a few weeks ago, and there are so many more opportunities and games on there for the kids to do. And there's, it's like what's the thing where a theremin?
A theremin?
Theremin, yeah. So something kind of like that, because I kept hearing these sounds, like, what are these kids doing anymore? And they're just playing around with that.
And now there's like middle school band compositions that have those apps as the sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it is incredible, and I think it's an untapped resource that we have not used with kids yet, and it's exciting to see what they can really come up with.
And it's then there is the argument, though, like how much technology is too much to be exposing them to in a school day.
Correct.
That's kind of where I have to kind of battle my inner demons on that, because
Do you ever wonder what's authentic music making or not authentic music making? Is it authentic music making using Song Music Lab? I don't.
I don't know if that's a can of worms.
Do we get into that?
Delve into right now. But innovations, circling way back, is it can be a lot of different things. Technology.
Yes.
There could be a lot of different opportunity there. So if a person had some ambition to really want to put on a good conference, because there's some pride in putting on a good conference. I can say that now.
It's Cody just did.
And it's difficult, sure, but like putting on something really cool, because a lot of the best speakers I've seen at the WMEA conference, they were so random at the time, like thinking on it. Like one was like a guy from Idaho who was the head football coach. I don't know if he's from Idaho. Do you know who I'm talking about? He was like the head football coach and he was the band teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And he literally would coach football and have his drum majors run in the band. And he said he had like 17 snare drums. And I was like, this is some wild stuff, but this is what works in that area for those people.
Yes.
And I remember that being really inspiring. So like,
and I think just in general for our conference, we always talk about, like we try to get as many local presenters as possible for a couple reasons. But one of the ones that I always fight for is you are the experts in Wyoming. You know a lot more about Wyoming than somebody from Illinois.
Sure.
Illinois is not going to understand what rural Illinois is very different than rural Wyoming.
Yeah.
So how are we going to be better in this? I did a session with our elementary teachers in Cheyenne, talking a lot about that. And I think there's this whole idea from some teachers that they're not confident, I guess, in themselves of teaching other teachers.
Imposter syndrome, man. It's a real thing.
And I want to be like, get over it. You are amazing.
Yeah.
All of the teachers that I've worked with, I can learn something from every single one of them.
Yeah.
And there are things that you are creating and doing that are so great. Share it. Talk about any band teacher, choir teacher, orchestra teacher, elementary teacher. There are things that you do that are different than anybody else and it's working. Share it.
Yeah.
And we can all get better. And that is one thing that I do love about the Wyoming music education community is we're so small that we are a little family and we do help each other out, and you can reach out. I think it gets scary at first when you're a new teacher to think about doing that because you don't know anybody. There are legends. Like, would I, as a brand new teacher, maybe want to reach out to Chad Rose or a maybe not, because they have these giant programs and these amazing programs, and they're not going to take the time to listen to me. But guess what?
They absolutely will.
They 100% would. And I think we always need to remember that.
And that can be a little intimidating for folks moving into Wyoming from out of state that have been doing this a long time, because you kind of move in here and we're regionally pretty we know each other and get along really well, and it's amazing how folks from out of state have come in and felt really welcome.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what we try to facilitate. But
always.
Back to what you've done, you do innovations. How long did you do that for? And then where was the next step?
Sure. I did that for a term, and I knew that I had wanted to, and that was just kind of my way in, I think, to get it on the board. I had a friend that was elementary VP. I'm trying to remember. I think I had also been helping out Sandy Steele with registration for a number of years before that already. And I became her registration helper because of music theory and working with her there. And she knew that I was a dependable worker that was efficient, that could get things done. You just put me on a task and I'm done. So she would call me to go to these places. And then that's how I kind of started seeing a little bit more on the outside of what the board was, but a little closer to it. So I'm like, okay, this is
well, and you also got some good FaceTime with all the different teachers.
And then getting exactly. So I did that innovations one, and I knew I wanted to do elementary. And when I was in my second year of innovations, the elementary VP quit in the middle of the year, and I took over for both elementary and innovations and did that. And I didn't really do anything for elementary other than my job as innovations or an elementary, or if I did secondary, is you are at the beck and call of those clinicians, of the main headliner clinicians, making sure that they get transported around the conference, making sure they're there on time, bringing them back and forth to the hotel, but also checking on all your other presenters and making sure they have the equipment they need. Did they get the handouts? Do they know where they're going? Blah, 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 all that stuff. So it's kind of a lot. So I was doing that for innovations and then also for elementary. My innovations term came up, and then I
You were doing those simultaneously.
And I was doing those simultaneously.
That's a lot of communication, because those various aspects that take place at the All-State Conference are usually divvied out among the teachers.
Oh, yes, because innovations I had, and I think it was an innovations year, technology was the headliner. So I had my innovations track, a technology track with that guy, and the jazz track. So I had all those clinicians, plus I had all of the elementary ones to worry about and make sure that I had. Everybody was great. It was amazing. And then I ran for elementary after that, got it, did that for a term. And that was when I was starting to get a lot of pressure, not pressure, but a lot of people to be like, hey, you should run for president. You'd be great. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little baby. I'm so young still. I don't know any of this. And then I didn't run for elementary again, because elementary and president are on different election cycles.
So they would have overlapped.
Yes. Yeah. So I could not have run for president if I'd run for elementary again. So I didn't, and I was like, well, okay. And partially, I'd been on the board for 4 years by that point. I was like, I'll just take a step back. And
it's kind of nice to recalibrate, too.
It was nice to just have a time. And then I had the next All-State. People were saying they were going to nominate me from the floor, and no one asked me ahead of time if I was, like, the board people. Now, having been in this position, president wasn't approaching me asking me this. Nobody really was. So Garth Moline nominates me from the floor, and I say, yeah, I'll do it. And then here we are, and then I got it. And it's been a whirlwind, and I wish I knew. I mean, this is everything. I wish I knew knew then what I know now. Yeah. But it doesn't ever stop me for, if I ever wanted to run for president again in the future, the distant future a little bit, that I could do that. Or I could run for district president and do the same kinds of things and be just as effective. Sure.
I found the district president position to be pretty interesting, because it is a lot of, that one, it has a longer time frame for the amount of work that is happening, if that makes sense. It's usually like some of the VPs and board positions, that's like an all-state focus thing. Yes, they put on a few other things. Correct. But the district president, man, that's like even through the summer, like, and which is great. Yes. Because if you got a good one, like right now, Carissa French is really, really good at communication.
Agreed.
And she did a much better job than I did, because I feel like I know now more of what's happening in our district because of how good her communication is. And then that person then takes all this information and goes and sits on the board. And I think that's a really a good channel to like kind of bring together this giant city with really long roads.
Having been on the board a lot and having been the leader of the board, it is very helpful to have district presidents that know what's going on and can speak to it instead of just reading off a thing of dates. And then if somebody's like, well, what does that mean? They actually know what that means. They actually know what the event is that they're talking about. And I think that we are getting to that point where we have district presidents that are committed and that know that.
And not that the older ones are bad, but now it's way easier to do the communicating part. Like,
and I think it just...
We literally have like chats on band and
and again, the technology bit of that is huge and different and has really helped a ton. And I need to keep getting on the band app a lot more often because so much
a lot of good information is on there.
And I think another difference kind of maybe between state president and district president is I had 2 other presidents that I could rely on, and I had an executive director. And then I knew we had an executive committee. So there's the executive board, which is the big board. And then there's the executive committee, which is president, past president, president-elect, executive director, secretary, and elementary VP. So that's the committee that we meet monthly, and that's where we kind of like bounce ideas around what's the direction of the organization, where do we want to go, how are things going, how are we on track for our clinicians, for the WMEA event, the conference part of it, on top of the WHSAA event, the student event, because I think that was a conversation we had in Cheyenne, was that I don't think a lot of people realize those are 2 separate events.
Yeah, and it took some explaining as the host site chair to like our district to be like, these are actually 2 different things that are happening. One is a WHSSA.
This is a high school culminating event. and
a professional
a state
development.
as professional development.
Because that's what it is. You know, we
Exactly.
get credit, you get university credit.
Yes.
And so, the differentiation of just how massive that event truly is. Yeah.
Truly. Like,
And a lot goes into it. Like the prep
Yes.
has started years in advance. And
yeah, we're already talking with Evanston people. They're already getting, I mean, I think even Cody 2 years before had to get their calendar in. And I think everybody that does that has to get their calendar in so that we can get that for sure, make sure the Monday, the Martin Luther King Monday is off, and deciding what the district's going to do about the Tuesday, whether or not they can have school that day, or if they take a professional development. I think that's what Cody did, was a professional development day or something.
Yeah, so Monday was off, right? And then Tuesday they did a professional development at the middle school.
Yeah.
Instead of having it at the high school.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's a huge thing to be thinking about, that I don't think, not that people are malicious and not thinking about it, they just are unaware of all of those things.
Yeah, no, it's an understanding. Like they aren't unaware, and it's because it doesn't really get talked about a whole lot. Because when you say like, oh yeah, all-state music, what is that?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And I remember Dr. McCaig talking a lot about that you didn't say you're going to All-State as a teacher. You were going to the WMEA conference.
Exactly.
Because that language does matter. And
it sure does, yeah.
So,
and it definitely changes how an administrator sees it too.
Yes.
Because if you say, yeah, I'm going to the All-State conference, what is that? Well, the best players in the state are going to get together for a couple days. Well,
how does that help you?
Yeah, but that's the WHSA
Yes.
part, right?
Yes.
And then personally, I will be attending
the conference.
These different sessions, getting either PTSB credit or UW credit.
Correct.
So that's important, especially for new teachers coming into the state of Wyoming to understand.
Yes.
Because sometimes you get an educator that comes into maybe a really rural program. They don't understand why we do certain things, and so they don't come, or something comes up.
Or
they
they're
don't
drowning in
everything
else that's going on.
Yeah, which is, it happens. But reaching out to, your colleagues has been huge, I think, to both of us.
Yes.
Going forward.
And I think one thing that I've been most proud of in my presidential term was working on building the mentoring program back to where it didn't, I think it had existed.
Well, so talk about that, because in your presidency, that was kind of a big push.
That was a huge push.
I remember we got the gal from Idaho that had built a mentor program, and I think we had started those conversations, and by we I mean totally you, had started those conversations to implement a mentorship program in Wyoming.
Correct. So a lot
of that.
That actually kind of even started before that, when I was in my second year of president-elect, and I went to the National Assembly, the NAFME National Assembly in Reston, Virginia, and that was a huge eye-opening experience of getting to sit around and talk with other educators around the country, getting to talk to other educators around our Northwest division, and it was powerful. And hearing what other states were doing, that was when I first got to meet, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget his last name, Bob, we'll call him Bob.
Yeah.
But he's president in Idaho, and his terms aligned with my terms, so we were presidents together. And he mentioned Kathy Stefani and talking about this huge mentor program that Idaho's doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing, where they're connected to each other. They're able to have retreats. They're able to get credits for these things. I'm like, why can't we do something
really good
like that
professional
in Wyoming?
development? Yeah.
And it's amazing. And then hearing in Montana, they do the same kind of thing, where they just have a mentoring coordinator that coordinates people. Montana and Idaho are very similar to Wyoming in the spread outness, the ruralness. They deal with a lot of the same challenges. So I'm like, why don't we have something like that that is going as well? So I really worked to, my first year, I emailed out to all of the brand new teachers in the state and just welcomed them to the state and put them in contact with their district presidents, and just kind of got a feel of if they would want a mentor. Is this something that people in the state even want is a mentoring program? And overwhelmingly was yes, we would love help. I think especially just now in education, where we don't have as many older teachers, we are having more and more people are retiring, and not as many people are coming into the profession. And those younger teachers need, especially if you're going to like a KC or a Kemmer or somewhere that is a K-12 job that is a really, really big, giant job, and you're this brand new little baby teacher that needs support, but you have no one and no idea who to even reach out to ask for support. So that was a really big
Or even
push
if
for
you're
me.
a teacher that is like you, going from a 612 band
Yep.
to an elementary or vice versa.
Absolutely. And I thought about that with, I'm going to forget her name, but she had taught in Farson and then moved to an elementary position or moved to a different position. Or even if you're teaching high school band and if you're teaching band in Casper and then all of a sudden you move to Greybull, that's a different
it's a
experience.
different
How are you
world.
going to help?
Yeah.
So
it could be for bridging that gap too.
all of it. And I just think everybody needs help. Everybody can get help. Even in my district, there are 5 music teachers. There's 3 elementary and 2 secondary. And sometimes the elementary teachers, I love them, and maybe they can't answer the question that I have. Maybe I'm trying to do something that's different than neither of them have ever done before. Or maybe I'm having, as a male elementary teacher, I'm having situations that they can't even comprehend because they're not male elementary teachers. And
Right.
how do you approach that situation? So when I was looking at developing this program, I went through, and I think another big push was that NAFME was doing a huge push of creating state mentoring programs. So I was able to go onto their mentoring site and read through all of the states and what their programs look like, what were the requirements. That was the other thing that I didn't ever want to do with this program, was make it more. Make it something that is just another thing to do, another
Right.
meeting, another...
You wanted it to be organic.
I want it to be
Yeah.
helpful. I want it to be something that you're going to use and not pressure and not stressful. So was able to pick and pull from a whole bunch, and I created our thing. And so we implemented it this fall, and I was able to get, I think there originally were 6 or 7 mentees that signed up, and then 23 mentors signed up to be mentors. And I knew that was going to happen because the people of Wyoming are amazing, and I knew that there were going to be way more people that were going to be willing to help than those that needed the help. And it was great. And mostly were K-12 teachers. I think there were 3 or 4 of them that were K-12 teachers, which then I kind of just put them in a cohort of other K-12 mentors. I'm like, because K-12 is so different in so many different ways, you probably all have a lot of similar things, and you can learn from that community better than just a one-on-one kind of situation.
Right.
So
that one you definitely
that
want
one
to
they had a
foster
little cohort.
community for.
I had a new high school choir teacher, middle school high school choir teacher that needed some help, and then an elementary teacher that was looking for how to implement more solfege into her primary grades, and then a guy that was kind of our age teacher but had never done really marching band before.
Yeah.
How do you do marching band? So there were some that were very broad of their needs, and some that were super specific. And other parts of the program that I liked, that I am really pushing, are just that, if you need help all the time, great, then this is your mentor all the time. If you need somebody to just shoot a text to or call every now and then and need just a quick question answered, then this is also for you too. This is for everybody. And I just want to continue building this database and building these connections and building these cohorts so that hopefully eventually we could get it to where we can offer a credit. Even a credit in the fall and a credit in the spring, and make it more worthwhile for those people. But honestly, I feel like the mentoring part of it is the most worthwhile part right now. So we started that in the fall. Then I did a session in Allstate to just check in with everybody that maybe hadn't heard of the mentoring program, and there were quite a few that still hadn't heard of it, which I get. It gets sent out in an email. If you're a brand new teacher, you're swamped. You're not going to be looking for other things. But we were able to get, I think, even 2 more new people that Allstate. But it was a wonderful session of just like that thing that you were mentioning, sitting around at the hospitality room and just talking. That was what we did. I created a whole bunch of scenarios that, what would you do in this situation? How would you help your mentor? And we talked through those. And I think it was a very valuable, worthwhile conversation to, how would you do? What actual language are you going to use? How are you actually going to talk? Because I think if you make it too hypothetical, I totally would talk like this. but then you would never actually
Right.
talk like that to an administrator or to a student or anything. And so just using that authentic language and those authentic answers, I think was really helpful. So I'm looking forward to now, as I step into the past president role, that's something that is just going to sit with the past president now, is this mentoring program, that they're going to be the mentoring program coordinator. I kind of like that I get to be that now for a little bit, so I can really keep developing it and making it better. So by the time that I am off the board, it would be Katrina Rooney then who would take over for me. And how can I help her be more successful as this mentoring coordinator and all that?
Which is cool, because when you're the president, you do end up making a lot of really good connections.
Yes.
And so as you move into more of the mentorship coordinator, you're pretty well connected.
Yes.
And so you can, like you were saying, you could, hey, I need to know about marching band sound systems.
Yep.
Here's your guy.
Yep.
Here's your gal. Go talk to them.
Yep. And
you can just point people in the right direction.
And I think that was one of the things that I was most overwhelmed with, of trying to figure out how to make it work, was I think in-person conversations are so much more valuable than like a not in-person, and maybe that's me. And especially like if you're wanting to do observations, which I think are so helpful and so needed. And not only like of a mentor observing a mentee, but the mentee coming and watching me teach a class and see what I did.
Yeah.
How to, like, let's talk about an issue that maybe you're having. Let me teach it, and maybe you can watch and pick up some ideas, because I don't think we do that as much once you were pre-service, you do so much observation and you're watching all the time. In service, you hardly get it. When was the last time that I got to go sit and just watch a teacher teach a lesson?
You know, and some administrations at different districts will allow you to do that.
Correct.
And I know it sounds weird, but a lot of what you do in the music room is things you could pick up from a core teacher.
Correct.
Because I remember doing some observations a couple times, and like I'd go into the social studies class or the science class, and this is how he's transitioning. Oh, that's how she gets him to get that. And those little tiny things can be very valuable, especially to young teachers. So don't be like, I'm a music person, I don't need to be here.
If you're having trouble with management, find the best teacher that has good management in your school and go watch them. I was very grateful when I was student teaching that both at the secondary level and the elementary level, I think it was that last week of your placement that both of my mentors were like, go watch this teacher, go watch this teacher, go watch this teacher, and just go and observe them, because go watch how this kindergarten teacher deals with management. Go watch how whatever. And that was really helpful. And that's even like what my principal says when he does his observations of me. He's like, I know nothing of the music side of it. I don't know if like how good of a music teacher is, like how your music teaching skills are. But I can tell you, I see a good teacher because I can see the transitions that you do. I can see the management style that you have. The engagement, all of that stuff. Yeah.
So that's kind of your journey through the WMEA. So let me hit you with just a few things. If you had to pick one tip for let's kind of go through the ages here, since you've had the experience.
Yeah.
And because I think we forgot to mention, you also teach college level lessons.
Yes. Yes, I teach at Northwest College. I'm an adjunct clarinet professor there. And
there you go. Yeah. We just let that slide. Teach college too, like it's casual.
Exactly.
So let's start with as someone who teaches elementary, what's the best advice? And I know that sounds very broad, but what is the best advice you can give to someone who's teaching elementary?
I think the best for an elementary teacher is to remember you're teaching kids. Remember you're not teaching a lesson, you are teaching the kids. And this might be the same throughout, but I think elementary is a really big one where you get this idea or this concept of like, I'm going to teach a folk dance today, and the kids are going to get it like that, and they're going to understand what right and left are, and they're going to get, and they're kids. And and especially in elementary, it's so funny because like in my school, I've got 2 sections of each. So like one section will come in, we'll do the lesson, and it'll, kill it. Next comes in, not even close. But how can I make those adjustments that quickly? So I think just always remembering that you're teaching kids and not the lesson, and not get frustrated. Like They're kids. If there's something that they're not understanding, it's not their fault. It is on the teacher to remember that I'm teaching you how to do this. Let me figure a way how I can get that knowledge to you. Yeah, I think that's the big one, is just remember they're kids.
That is, I know we focused on elementary, but that's definitely valuable as you go up. I teach 2 sections of intro guitar.
Yes.
Those 2 classes are very, very different.
Very different.
So I think that is very helpful. So what about the best advice you could give to a high school student who is thinking about going into music after graduation? Whether it be education or performance.
I tell them, because I actually have a high school student with me right now that is looking at going to UW in the fall for music education. And some of the things that I've told her, and one of the biggest ones is, don't lose your love for music because I think sometimes when you're doing it, I just remember, especially my senior years at UW, I think there can be just this pressure all the time to be like the best player all the time and be all about music all the time, that you lose your love for it a little bit. And I would say don't. Try to do things that you love and enjoy so you remember why you're here to begin with. What are you wanting to share with the kids? What are you wanting to do as a professional musician later on in life? And just to keep enjoying it. And how do you bring that enjoyment and that passion into your teaching? And how, yeah,
that's good advice. Because I bet if we were to interview some college students, they would say that they had moments where they lost the love of music. Because I've talked to former students that were like, how do you get through this? And they're like right at the end of their sophomore year, right? Like they're doing the barrier, and they're going through the paces of university. And
it's a very mentally exhausting program, I think, at times. And to remember to take breaks, to remember that you're human.
I always tell them like other hobbies are really enjoyable.
Yes. Have something that is not music,
right?
That you can go and enjoy. Cooking. I do cooking or reading. Those have always been really helpful for me. And then I think the other advice that I would just give is like, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace. It's so hard. And then I'm still learning it. That I think has been the thing that has been the biggest lesson that I've learned, is to just be nice to myself, give myself grace if I'm not perfect at anything, or if I'm struggling with something, it's okay. I am going to get better at it. Have that growth mindset kind of thing. Because you're not going to be perfect when you first start teaching. You may not be good when you first start teaching, and that's okay. You will get there. Yeah. It will be okay.
Yeah, that advice definitely transcends the
that's everything, I think.
I think that's good advice that a lot of people could take. Well, I think our conversations about, you come from Wyoming, you go all the way through our public programs, you get to the University of Wyoming, have a really amazing experience, meet some really great mentors, and then start building this network out of Greybull.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Moving to Powell, and now you're going out to Clark.
Yep.
And still building this network. Your service as president was very influential, I think, to a lot of folks that have worked close to the board, or just know folks that have. And it's fun to watch you kind of take on this role of let's not only teach the kids now,
right?
Let's help the people that are teaching the kids, because they need help, and a lot of them don't know how to ask for help. They don't know who to ask for help. What would you say to them?
I think this is one of the things that I was thinking most about, especially for rural teachers. It is so easy to isolate yourself. It is so easy to be tired at the end of the day and to not make a phone call, to not send an email, to just stay in your own room. And my advice, I guess, is just don't allow yourself to become this island. It is difficult, but yes, please go to the district meetings that are in your area. Go meet the other teachers. It's probably going to be a drive, but it is so worth it to get to know the people that are around you. Because I know from our experience of being in the North Bighorn Basin, that when those new teachers come in, I go up to them immediately and say, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here. What do you need?
Yeah.
How can I help? How can we help? And I think that's and especially in the North Bighorn Basin, I've seen that a lot. And I know that that's happening throughout the rest of the state. But those those older teachers that have been in the district, I think a lot of time they don't even know who the new teachers are.
Right.
And the new teachers don't even know who the veteran teachers are. So go to the things, meet the people as much as you can, and reach out as much as possible.
Ask a bunch of questions.
And ask the questions.
Yeah.
Don't ever feel like you're being a bother to people, because you're not. If people don't get back to you right away, it's probably because everybody's just busy and
busy gig,
is trying to do it. But do reach out, do ask, because I really truly can't think of any teacher in the state that is going to be like, figure it out.
Right.
They're going to help you. Or they're going to say, I don't really know how to do that, but my friend over here does. And they're going to make a connection, and they're going to start helping make connections. And I'm hoping that's also what our mentor program can keep doing as we keep building, is just building that web of connection. So
when I was in Thermopolis, I used to cold call Wade all the time.
Yes.
Wade, I know you're probably doing something, but hey, quick.
I just got
and he answered every time I called him. And I think I used to do that to Chad, and I still do texting him sometimes. And they answer every time.
Absolutely. I can't think of a single time I've asked anybody for help and not gotten help.
And I think that's like the general music industry too, because you call Kurt, or you call.
Absolutely.
I called Dave Rickard at DNL. Hey, I got a question about this. They answer
they will
within 24 hours usually.
Because I think when one person succeeds, all of us succeed, and I think we all know that, and I think we all know that we've all been there.
Yeah,
we've all been in those shoes where it's hard and it's overwhelming, and you don't know what to do, and you want to be the best that you can be, but you don't know even how to get there, and just having some conversations, and even sometimes just finding friends. And your music colleagues can become some of your best friends. Sure. Mine have. So.
Absolutely. And especially, but you got to talk to folks. Like, just go for it.
You just got to talk, and don't be. I know it's hard to, but this is coming from somebody who is super shy. Don't be. Yeah. Just go ask. Just go talk. Even if you can make it to Allstate, or if you can make it to, especially if you can make it to WMEA conference, and getting to go to those sessions. It's so important.
And see the people who are there, because I remember Eric Seeger putting on a guitar clinic a couple years ago, and I met Zach from Natrona County there, and he's like helping me with what I'm doing in my guitar classes. And that, just going to that one session, made that connection. And
watching Monica Huntington over years present just lessons that she created, just full on created with pop music, with everything, and I'm like, holy cow. You can do that? So I can do that? Yeah. I can create a parachute routine with Ed Sheeran songs? Oh my God, that'd be amazing. And then you do, and then,
Yeah, very cool. Well, Michael Jaycox, thank you very much for taking the time to drive to Cody Middle School.
Happy to be here.
And, thanks for talking with me and sharing your insights into what we're doing here in Wyoming.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Yes.